Well, as I'm getting ready to start Color Gamut Consulting, I need a studio space. And I don't have any rooms in my house. I mean, there's like my kids' bedrooms, they're going off to college, but those really aren't ideal spaces for what I need to do. And I do have a detached one-car garage at my house. But it's currently a gigantic mess. Partially a big mess because I haven't really been out here much in like a year. It's probably been close to a year or more since I've done a project out here, and it just kind of has become a crap collector of all my various tools and parts and bits and bobs that I collect from working on stuff around the house and electronic stuff and car stuff. So this is the start of cleaning this thing out to make it a workable studio space that I can also print in, because I do have a printer that I believe will be on its way shortly. Hello, everyone. This is the final live stream of 2025. It's been a bonkers year. First one in the chat today. Now, I think your name is Oscar, but I've probably asked before, and I'm drawing a blank on your name. So let me know your name in the comments. Kevin, what's happening? Coming in with the different avatar. You're killing me, Smalls. Excellent, Oscar. And then Greg, right? Greg down in Belize. All right, we're here. End of 2025. I hope you guys had a great Christmas holiday season. Big Christmas fans in this house. I ate so much food. Like, I was exhausted because of like just the food. Christmas Eve, I made tacos and a lot of tacos. And then Christmas Day, great stuff. Hello, Terry. Wisconsin. It's been a little warm up there for y'all. I think it's going to get cold, though. I think. Hello, friend. Thank you for commenting. First time you've commented, pretty sure. So I've done some reflecting. If you guys caught the intro, I did have some shots of me converting this studio space over into, well, what was my workshop into a studio space. And cold and snowing. Wonderful. My son's actually heading up to Wisconsin and then back to Minnesota for a wedding. He's going up to see his fiance. So, yeah, so just the whole process of converting. And one of the things I realized is I posted on my Instagram. If you don't follow me, Color Gamut Consulting on Instagram, I posted on my Instagram that my studio is being used for another purpose because my son does a live stream show, and he does sports, specifically the NFL. He does kind of a recap of the previous week and then some predictions what to look for the following week. Well, he used my studio space because he was home, and I posted a video, and I got so many comments of people asking to see my setup. So one of the things I'm going to show you guys today is kind of a setup of my studio, more than just this situation. But yeah, that looking back at that video of what my shop looked like, actually, let me. I will pull up just a little quick screenshot of it for those of you guys who missed the intro. Give me 1 second to pull it up. In the meantime, what new or mind-blowing thing did you learn this year? Because I think, like, for me, it's always like the best days are days that I learn something. So let me know what specifically. Well, if you don't have anything DTF related, like, you can tell me something, like if you just learned something new about yourself, like self growth is huge too. So let's see, shop conversion. Here it is. I'm going to open this, throw it up on the other screen so you guys can see it. Okay. Let's go this one. Is that going to give it to me? Okay. Here, this is what my studio looked like. Yeah. So I used to have a kind of wood shop. This is my studio space when I started. It took me almost a month. I think in the video that I posted, I put April 7th up in the corner, and that's kind of when I like officially made the switch to do this. And it took me almost a month. Actually, no, not quite. It took me like 20 something days because my first live stream ever was April 25th. So that was huge. Jordan finally making it into the live stream. Welcome. You can ask a question. What questions do you have aside from how do you shovel a sidewalk? Because I ain't got no friggin' clue. It was 80 degrees the other day here. It was a little warm for Christmas. I got to be honest, a little bit warm. But yeah, so I kind of, everybody was giving me like, oh my gosh, I want to see the setup. So you guys are going to see a setup. Here we go. Oh, but first I'm going to say hi to Carl. Oh, FYI, guys, Artistic Gifts was the first person to comment on my first live stream, aside from my wife. Love my wife. She watches all the live streams. She's watching it right now. But Jonathan was the first person that was not related to me to comment on that first live stream. So, all right, let's switch over to the iPhone camera if it wants to connect. Oh, my word. Of course, the one time I try to use it, it fails. Let's see if I can get it back. Sweet. Awesome. Let's see if I can figure out why it's not working. Solid. All right, guys. So maybe you're not going to get a view of my desk. Dang it. I was hoping to. You know what, Greg? You probably were. And quite frankly, I wish I could stream more on TikTok, but it's an enigma to me. I cannot seem to figure out, well, I understand like I can get on there, but it doesn't really benefit me a whole ton. Cuz it's not people that are my core audience, like people that are looking to understand how to do their color better and all that kind of stuff. What's your Monday morning tech issue? Let's share with the class and see if we can figure it out. Great. Oh, Oscar. Brain fart for a second. Why do people want to watch me at 3 o'clock in the morning? There's oftentimes folks from like Pakistan on the live stream, and I'm like, what time is it? And they're like, it's 4 a.m. I'm like, you monster, what are you doing? Okay, so my Wi-Fi camera, my iPhone camera is not working. Bollocks. I was trying to figure out the best way to do this. Sweet. Coleman, don't get sunburnt, okay? Tuning in from the beach. That's good stuff. So, while I also pivot trying to figure out how to get my camera so I can turn around and show you guys what my desk set, like my whole shop setup looks like now, since I showed you guys what it looked like before, because it looked like this before. Let's talk about some things that I learned this year, because I always learn a lot. I consciously am looking to learn more things, find out more information. One of my favorite moments during a live stream was figuring out something about Vectorizer. And if you guys don't know, Vectorizer is one of my favorite softwares for vectorizing artwork. And when I learned that you could do like color pickers and like pick the colors that it's using, like totally blew my mind. So let's pull in here. Just let's see if I can find a random graphic that will work well. Let's see. Ooh, I know. I'm gonna pull in a shirt I made for the family Christmas. Well, actually, this isn't the final one that I made, but this will work. So this is a PNG. Click OK. Vectorize it, go crazy. One of the things that happens sometimes is, especially on crappier quality raster images, you get like a whole bunch of different colors. Now this one's going to be good because I use 3 colors. So yeah, it shows 3 colors, but realizing there was a color picker here and it's picking up 2 different blacks, which is interesting. There's definitely not 2 different blacks in there, but what black is that versus that? Oh no, so it's picking it up as the same. Okay. But the fact that you could like merge them together or sub them out, like in this case, if I want to do a black knockout, I could just get rid of all the black in it. Oh my gosh, black knockout. Done. Perfect. So for me, that was a lot of fun to have that happen in a live stream. And and that's why I like to test and play and tweak with stuff and learn new things. And I've learned new things from a profiling standpoint, things that I've picked up just from doing it a whole bunch. And that's been a lot of fun, is just the constant learning and doing it over and over and realizing that different softwares behave differently. I know Coleman was doing it with the i1 Profiler software, which behaves differently than Digital Factory's profiling software, which behaves a little differently than Neo Stampa's profiling software. And now Digital Factory has Digital Factory 12, and they're using the Fiery profile, which I haven't had really any time to play with that yet to see what it does and how it works. But like, this is part of that process. Now, I've got the baseline understanding for color profiling to tweak with stuff, but every once in a while you get the software that just behaves a little funky or behaves a little different than I'm accustomed to. So Yeah, working on integrating. Yes, having Vectorizer, and they do have an API. Vectorizer.ai does have an API. So you can integrate it into your website as a tool. And I think you pay for like tokens and stuff like that. So, um, Coleman, you're at the beach and it's 37 degrees. That is not a beach. That's not a beach. Yeah, LA, 60 degrees. Beautiful. Yep. It is. Vectorizer's always been, since they were in beta when it was free, they were one of my favorite softwares. So they're definitely a huge recommendation. What else? What else have we learned? What else have you guys picked up on or learned? I think one of the surprising things for me as I've gone through this year, for those of you who don't know, when I started, and I was looking through those old videos, in my brain, I was going to travel a couple weeks out of the month and like go to shops and work on YouTube videos a couple weeks out of the month. And basically since August, I've been on the road more than I've been home. And I thought I was going to do some like artwork prep for people. I've done some of that, but very, very little. I thought I was going to maybe help people with like content creation, like maybe like dealers that sell machines, help them make content. No, like literally the majority of my work is profiling machines. And I have literally profiled like 100 plus, built 100 plus profiles. Maybe I might be close to 100 machines. I don't know. It's, if you guys saw my my tour shirt that I was wearing, and actually let me pull up that and I'll show you guys all the places I've been, and then I've actually added some more even since then. So let's see. Let's go to, I'm going to go to Kittl. I made it on Kittl. For those of you guys who have not used Kittl, it is a sweet, sweet software. Let me pull it up over here. And did I make it all in the same thing? Thank you for updates, sir. There it is. So a few of these places I didn't make it to. I did not make it to Shenzhen, China. That was a bummer. And I didn't make it to Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm going there in January. And I didn't make it for San Francisco. I'm not sure when that one's going to happen. But I did go to Canada. And I went to Philadelphia, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New Jersey, Kansas City, then Canada. Those were added on. So I've been to quite a few different places and profiled a lot of different machines. But one of the things that somebody from San Francisco commented. One of the things that has been most surprising to me, because I've been doing this for 3.5 years now, and I thought that generally we were getting an understanding in the industry that like a clean equipment, clean workspace, and climate controlled environment were like critical. But I still run across so many people, so many shops that aren't humidifying. They're not managing their climate control, and big shops that are printing a lot. And a lot of times they just don't even realize they're kind of chasing their tail. So it's a reminder. And that's why I like being in shops, is because I would just default to like being like, oh, everybody knows about this. But unless you're trained and told X, Y, or Z, you don't realize. So there's shops that have been doing DTF for 5 years that no one ever showed them a different way or told them a different way of doing something better, because they just figured it out and made it work in their shop. And so for me, it's been like that interaction. It's one of the reasons I've got all these humidimeters, the hygrometers over here, is because I'm testing which one is most accurate, why some of them aren't as accurate. And then I'm testing like the best humidifier to use. So back behind my dryer, I've got a ultrasonic humidifier, which is really nice. But I also have an evap style cooler humidifier, which I actually like that one more. I can more quickly bring up the humidity in this room. Obviously, I'm a 12 by 12 room, so it's not big, but yeah, so I can bring up the humidity real quick with that one. And what I'm noticing so far on tracking these guys is these three at the bottom are the most accurate. These three, which is what most everyone's using, they take a while to become accurate. So if your room sits there for a while, like a couple hours at a certain humidity, these will all read the same. But the minute I start increasing or decreasing humidity, these ones change immediately. These ones lag behind. So I'll release a video with all that information, but it's that realization that there's nothing standard about DTF yet. This industry has not become standardized. And that is one of the big things that I'm trying to do is give some standard parameters for everything, every part of this process, both the curing, the printing, the pressing, all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to give some standardization to an industry that is just a lot of rogue players, a lot of rogue players. So, I don't have a problem with somebody using wet ones on the machine as a whole. Just don't use it on the friggin' print head. Like, I don't got a problem with that. Like, use whatever you want to use to dust stuff off. But when you're around the print head, the capping stations, the wiper blades, the underside of the carriage, let's use some very specific tools for that. Dual swamp coolers. Yep. Temp stick brand hygrometer. I will have to look that up and see. These are kind of the most common ones that I get or that are out there. And then, like, the reason I'm testing a couple of these, the one back there that has no screen on it, that is like the most scientifically accurate one, and it was expensive. But that's kind of my baseline for what's a good one. This one is been pretty accurate. This one is been really accurate, but it also attaches to an app, so you could get a smart plug from the same manufacturer and tie in what this is saying with that smart plug. So, like, if the humidity drops below a certain level, it'll turn on that switch or that plug, and that'll turn on your humidifier, and it'll run. And once it gets over a certain a certain humidity, it will shut it off. So I'm trying to create some automation because they do have like those just plug and play ones, but then your sensor is right next to your humidifier, which isn't always the best thing. And actually, I have my swamp cooler humidifier like on the opposite corner of my studio from the printer. Vicky, hello. Vicky you don't often make it on the live streams. So the Epson, a lot of printers have it built in. And a lot of printers, hygrometers, are very wrong. Now, I don't know about the Epson. I just know from experience with Chinese machines that have the humidity sensor built into it, integrated into it. And I have tended to find those to be wildly inaccurate. They're probably in a similar quality of sensitivity of these ones up here that are often used. So that's what I'm trying to find. I'm trying to get to the bottom of like the really, really poor like readings, and that people just are like, I've got 3 of them. I've seen shops with 3 of them, and they show 3 different humidity ratings. So trying to standardize, trying to give you guys some tools that will actually work across the board. Greg, I have not yet. I'm actually the shop I'm going to in Worcester, Massachusetts, first week of the new year. They run all DTG machines. And we've had a lot of long conversations about, and I'm like, I just need one of your techs in there to make sure we're printing right. I will take care of addressing the color issues and aligning all the printers together with each other. But yeah, so I've not done DTG yet, but I am doing it this coming first part of the year. I can profile really kind of any digital printing technology out there. A lot of them are not as difficult to get working right as DTF tends to be. But the other concern I would have is if their software doesn't, like if it's got some weird quirk to it that I'm not familiar or comfortable with. But yeah, I do other technologies as well. All right, let's see. What's DTF Tech Talk got to say today? You always have really good things to share. We've recently started doing our own ICC creation, Digital Factory 11. Our colors look amazing now, except the yellow has too much magenta. Your yellow shouldn't have any magenta in it. So, two things. When the color doesn't come out right, you cannot go back and edit the ICC. This is not possible. There might be some software out there that can do that. Maybe some color logic stuff. But for the most part, you don't want to edit an ICC. There's really no way to do it without, I'm sure, spending a lot of money with some very special softwares. The other reason you wouldn't want to do that is because you're technically pushing it, like moving things around that aren't in a direction that it originally intended. So literally, you just have to rebuild your profile. If something's out in your profile, it meant something didn't scan properly. And this is one of the reasons if you ask me which RIP I prefer Neostampa for this one reason. Neostampa allows you to do a 3 times weighted scan of the chart. So you print up 3 versions of the scan chart, you scan them, and it takes a weighted average of the 3 scans. So if you have a square that got scanned weird, or you didn't scan it right, or your hand got bumped or something, that happens. That happens to me. It happened the other day in a shop. There was a scan that came out weird. But because it was in Neostampa, I was able to catch it before I thought the profile was done. With Digital Factory, there's really no way to catch that aside from it coming out the other end, like finishing up the profile and then showing your results. So if the yellow has any magenta in it, that's a problem. But my guess would be is that something got screwed up on the ICC scan itself. That is what I would do. So you have to go back to it. Oh, okay. You're using Nix Mini. Yes, it does. However, you can still get a really good profile. You can get a good profile with the Nix. The reason you get a Coleman, control yourself. Yes, you can get better. You do get better results. A better spectrophotometer is going to give you better results. The majority of the reason why it gives you better results is because we have more scans, more swatches to scan. With the i1 Pro or the i1 Pro 3 Plus or the i1 IO Table, whatever, any of these better quality scanners, yes, it scans better, but it also gives you more swatches because you're not going beep, moving, beep, moving, beep. So it's a lot slower process. Coleman is just trashing the Nix right now in the chat. So yeah, I'm thinking it's probably a missed, a missed scan or a wrong scan. Like you were on the wrong square or between 2 squares when you scan that one swatch that's throwing the whole profile off. Coleman, it's not like having a Dollar Tree brand versus Erewhon. No, it's not that. It's not Dollar Tree, okay? You can. If somebody needs a better profile, the Nix will do a good job. Can it do a better job with an X-Rite? 100%. You're also spending more for the scanner, more for the profiling software, all of the things. So you can still get good results with the Nix, and you can get better than you currently have by trying some different things when you're building out profiles. But yeah, DTF Talk, I think you're definitely just a swatch got scanned wrong at some point in that scanning process. And you just got to rebuild it. Even when I'm using the X-Rite, sometimes something goes wrong either with the printer while it was printing the swatches, or something got bumped in the scan, or weird things happen. Weird things totally happen. And you just have to rebuild the profile. There's no way to edit it. And I know that's frustrating, but you wouldn't believe how many times I have scanned and rebuilt profiles. So many times. I just scanned 15 out of 30 swatch with the Iron Pro 2. Yeah, so you're doing it manually. So you're doing the swatch. So with the Nix Mini, you're scanning like 88 swatches, but you have to go beep and then move it, beep and then move it, beep and then move it. With the i1 Pro 2 or even the Pro 3, without the scanning table, you basically scan across in a row, down, scan, and so 1500 swatches is going to take you a little bit, and especially with Neo Stampa, you do like 3 times weighted. Whoo, that gets to be a lot. So a lot of times, if I'm testing maybe a new setting or testing, making some adjustments, like if I'm trying to, let's say my magenta is not coming out as strong as I want it to, and I want to increase the amount the magenta is laying down. So in Digital Factory, I would go from like K or H1 to I1 on the variable dot setting. That's going to push the magenta a little bit harder. Sorry, I lost my brain. When I'm doing those kind of tests, I will tend to scan a smaller scan chart just to see if I'm getting that push that I'm looking for in that color. Because there's no sense in scanning 5,000 swatches when I've made only a small adjustment. I can scan a couple hundred and get an idea that the direction I'm pushing things is making a difference. Because last thing I want to do is make one little change and then spend 40 minutes scanning and then have that change not affected as much as I was looking for. So you're welcome. By the way, wait, I think I know who you are, because do you have a YouTube channel? I think you might have a YouTube channel, and I think I might have seen your stuff. Let me know your name, because I'm drawing a blank on it right now. Coleman, yeah, you're a monster. You also have a great amount of patience. Yep. Sean. Okay. I thought I knew who you were. Let's see. And yeah, exactly. 5,000 swatches is a lot. Now, and this is, like I said, I think I've talked about it before, but this is the great debate, is like, how many swatches do you need for a good profile? And Neo Stampa is like, you don't need that many. But every other person I talk to is like, more swatches is better, at least 2,000. I think, honestly, even Coleman was a little overzealous. I think once you pass the 4,000 threshold, you have diminishing returns, meaning you're not going to get a lot more robust profile by doing just more swatches necessarily, and for the time that it takes to scan those extra swatches. I think the most I've used consistently for profiling with the i1 profiler was like 3,800 swatches or something like that. But anywhere between 2,000 and 4,000 swatches is like really good. I have some people joke, is like, how much time do you have? That's how many swatches you should make. And I don't know. So the thought process behind Neo Stampa saying you don't need to do as many swatches is their thought process is like, you wouldn't measure the distance from Los Angeles to New York in centimeters. You would measure that distance in kilometers. It's like the whole thought experiment of a shoreline. If you mapped out a shoreline, you would, if you mapped it out in centimeters, it would be infinite, because all the little twists and turns that the shoreline makes or whatever. So I get their thought process there. I feel like I've gotten better results when I've used more swatches. So there is not, especially not with the Nix Mini. The Nix Mini, there's no way to give yourself more swatches. Even if you have, like, I have the Nix Spectro L, which is a little bit better Spectro from them. There's no way to increase. It's just built. It's baked into the software it's baked into the software, the scan charts they print. Same thing with like the i1 IO table that I have. You can't see it, it's in the dark. It is limited in Digital Factory how many swatches I can do. And in Neostampa, they have some defaults of like 738, 15 something, and 2230 or something like that. Those are my options in Neostampa. It's in the i1 Profiler software that you have kind of an infinite. I think you can do up to 6,000. I think that's where it caps you out. But it is kind of therapeutic. But it's therapeutic like those destruction rooms where you just go trash everything. I definitely, that was one of my favorite purchases. And thank you, Jim Raffle at Colorcasters, he taught my G7 certification class. And then he hired me on as a consultant to do some projects with him. And he's like, he had one of those at tables, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is huge for someone like me that is trying to build multiple profiles, in some cases very quickly if I can, especially when I'm testing stuff. When I'm testing inks or film or something like that, I am building multiple profiles pretty quickly, sometimes in tandem with each other. If you guys caught my Saturday live stream like a week and some change ago, that's what I was doing. I was building multiple profiles. So when you're scanning swatches, the preview, the computer screen shows you, should that semi-closely reflect reality? No. Also, I doubt your computer monitor is profiled. No one's computer monitor is profiled properly. I'm gonna paint with a broad stroke. Ain't nobody's computer monitors are profiled properly. You know how I know? Because mine aren't, because I find it unpleasant to look at. So I have used the X-Rite i1 Pro 3 to profile all of my monitors. Again, I was going to show you guys the dopeness of my setup. Let's see if it's working. Let's see if it chose to work. Dang it. Actually, I'm going to try disconnecting and getting back on and see if that reconnects it. So I have a monitor here. That's what you guys are on right now. I have a monitor down here. That's what all of my my tutorials are on. So when I go to like Photoshop, that pops up on my monitor down here. So I just look down and I can still see all you guys up here, but down there. And then I also have my laptop over here next to me, my PC. That's what what runs that, all that kind of stuff. So it's but they're profiled, but I don't run them profiled. And the reason why is because it looks so brown. Like, we're so used to seeing computer screens have a bluish hue. We don't realize it. We think this white is white, but it's actually a bluish white that you're looking at on your screen. So when you profile it, it is it's not pleasant. It's not pleasant to look at. A properly calibrated monitor just looks brown. It looks brownish. It just looks weird. I don't love it, which is why most people are not running profiled monitors. They can be expensive. Honestly, LG has some amazing IPS displays that you can get calibrated really, really accurately. And they're not crazy expensive. My wife believes my computer setup is a little obnoxious. I would tend to probably agree. It is a little obnoxious. Oh, baby, it's working. Sweet. Okay, guys, here we go. Here is my setup, because everybody wanted to see it when I showed my son prepping. Okay. Boy, howdy. We must be using the telephoto zoom. So this is my desk. I actually have a monitor up there as well. But that's the monitor you guys are all on. That's my tutorial monitor. And that is my PC. Then I've got a bunch of storage here. Got like spare parts and stuff like that. I've got my ink there, the printer you guys all know and love. There's my humidifier I'm testing. There's some extra shirts. Woo. There's my heat press. There is my hat heat press. There is the i1IO table with some things currently sitting on it. And you know what, just for fun, guys, I'm going to take you out. I'm going to show you what the front part of my shop looks like. Since you guys got to see the back part of it, there's no light in here yet. I still need to install some lights. But this is basically become my storage. I need to work on it a little bit. It's a little disheveled right now. But yeah, all of my tools and everything kind of got contained in here. So, and then I've got this lovely sound blanket. Ooh. That opens up back into my studio. So that's a little tour of the place. I'm trying to get back a little bit. I've got this overhead colored light. I've got these panel lights to light things up. I got my studio monitors because I love some good tunage. Yeah, so this is the setup. All you guys were asking, and now you've seen it. You've seen behind the curtain, so to speak. But yeah, okay, let's go. I missed a few questions while I was giving you a lovely tour of the joint. Oh, I do have a window. Like I keep it locked off all the time because I don't want to let natural light in here because I can't see anything. But yeah, that up there, that's get it over. That's a window. I have it blocked off with a t-shirt so that it doesn't bleed light in here, because like I said, it would be unfortunate because it would light up everything. All right. Let's see. Let's go back. We had some questions. So yes, yours will look, they never look accurate because your monitor probably isn't calibrated, but also they just never look accurate. So don't worry about what they scan and look like on screen. That's always going to look a little weird. So sorry, that was a roundabout way of eventually trying to answer that question. Oscar speaks the truth. That is the one big frustration I have with the digital factory profiling. Now, I haven't done the fiery one yet, so the jury's still out. But with Neostampa and with the i1 profiling software or i1 profiler software, you can go back and redo scans. You can go back before you complete everything and like rescan a line or rescan a swatch or something like that. You cannot do that with digital factory stuff. Let's see. Does Neostampa have color mapping for Pantone colors? They do, built in. Most of the RIP softwares have some kind of mapping for Pantone colors. But will they be accurate? No, they will not. Herein lies a little bit of the problem, the dilemma we have, especially when folks are coming from screen print to digital printing, is, and actually, funny we mention it, I literally just picked this up. I purchased this. I have my own Pantone book now because I need to do some work on this. So if you have somebody giving you a Pantone color in an RGB color space, that is wrong. If they give you RGB values or a hex code, that is not going to be accurate because Pantone is a physical color. And when they give you the RGB value or the CMYK value, it's an approximation. The problem is that RGB and CMYK values are device dependent. So it depends on what device you are using them in will dictate what the color actually looks like. Now, in Neostampa, their Pantone values are lab values. Lab is device independent. And I'm going to, like, when I do my video with Pantone, I'm going to get into all this in like pretty nitty gritty detail. But CMYK values, RGB values are completely pointless for trying to match Pantone colors. Even if you have a lab color value, if your profile is not accurate, the lab value that Neostampa has in their system will not be accurate. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to test my profiles I've built against these. And the other thing is that, like, unless you have a physical version of this, you cannot accurately match Pantone colors. So if somebody's trying to do color 200C, which is red, and I think if I remember correctly, it's on page 36. No, dang it. I was so close. That's Pantone 170. So Pantone 200C, where is it? Somebody in the chat's going to be like, hey, Jeremy, it's over here. Let's see. So let's see. There, oh, I'm almost there. I was so close. Maybe it's 57C. We'll get there eventually. I will find it. There we go. Pantone 200C. That is Ohio State's red, if I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure that's Ohio State red. If you don't have this physical book to match the color, or a physical copy, like a shirt that has been printed with Pantone 200C, if you don't have something physical to match with, you are never going to be right. Well, let me rephrase that. You are trying to hit a moving target. Because if you use an RGB value and you stick it in and your system does a conversion to sRGB through a absolute colorimetric, and then you put it on the printer, but then it's doing a relative colorimetric or something like that, that's going to screw up the way that RGB value translates. So lab value is the only value you can get from Pantone that will accurately give you a representation. Again, without something physical to match it to, you are kind of trying to hit a moving target. So most of the softwares, Digital Factory has them too, but Neostampa has a library scanned in of lab values for Pantone colors. So, okay. Sorry, I'm like missing a bunch of stuff. Mom said, read the comments. So Josie's watching because they're shopping or at the doctor or something. I don't know what they're doing. They're out and about. Okay. Carl says, I kind of profiled mine with the X-Rite, but I only use my laptop for DTF, Adobe only, so I don't have to look at that look at until then. Definitely looks brown, especially black and dim. Yep. Profiled monitors look funky. Not bad. They're just funky. This is not an uncomfortable setup to use at all. I love my setup. It's glorious. 43-inch monitor is like the best for editing. It's so nice to edit videos with a 43-inch monitor. My printer is not profiled yet. This is Greg. Profiled yet, but they have this option, the RIP software for brightness and contrast. If I'm playing with the setting brightness contrast down and up, the other, no. So I'm assuming you're using like Color Rip Box or Color Box Rip or something like that, or some other RIP software. Maybe you're using Digital Factory. Brightness and contrast are not good ways to calibrate anything. The best way is to just simply have a profile built specifically for your machine. That's the only way to guarantee accurate colors. Otherwise, every other setting, saturation, brightness, contrast, all those things, you're going to be chasing. Like if you're trying to get one color to look a little bit better, you're going to be off chasing in another direction. So it is dangerous because you're going to mess up one thing by fixing something else. And also if you have like CMYK sliders, again, you are trying to get one more accurate, it's going to throw off something else. That's why a bespoke profile for your machine is so important. Does allow you to calibrate a Pantone color if it's off a little, like Flexi. yes, it has the ability to. I am not familiar with Flexi 22. I've reached out to them to try to get them to send me a copy so I can test it and see what it does, because I will run across Flexi in the field. But yeah, you can save your own Pantone colors. You can tweak with them. You can adjust the values that they have in there, but they do have a full library kind of pre-built. And then you can use their variation printout to print variations to see what subtle adjustments will bring you into line with the actual Pantone colors. Dino says some Pantone colors do have RGB values. The Pantone book, look for 3 or 4 dots under any particular color. The problem is RGB, they do. Pantone Connect, so I'm actually probably going to pay for that service, but Pantone Connect will give you a CMYK, an RGB, and a lab value. The problem is that RGB is device dependent, period, plain and simple. An RGB value on your machine, Dino, on your setup will look different than mine. And in Adobe, like depending on the color space you're in, that RGB value will look slightly different. So RGB and CMYK values are device dependent. They are not device independent, meaning they don't translate perfectly from one device to another, from one monitor to a printer, from one monitor to another monitor, even calibrated perfectly. If there's a different color space or something like that, it's tough. Which Jordan, great segue. So you can get accuracy, but there's the ability with Pantone to create more colors because you have more base pigments. And I will show you guys exactly what I mean. In the front of this book, let's see. I actually read through the first few pages. If you've never read through the first few pages, it's a lot of fun. These are your base pigments. Let's see if I can get it to focus on this. There we go. Look at that. Pantone Magic System current base inks. What do you got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 or 11 base pigments. With CMYK, we're using 4. And depending on the combination, that can be either really limiting or you can do a lot. For those of you guys who don't know, I literally am finishing editing it right now. But the new Chroma ink that's in this DTF Station printer, the Color Prime Chroma ink, that's their new ink, is producing more greens with CMYK because of the specific hue and the specific pigments they're using. It is creating more greens than any other CMYK setup I have come across. And they're producing oranges and greens with CMYK. I'm doing it on this machine that are comparable to expanded color machines. Like, I'm getting greens that are just as good as expanded color greens. And I'm getting oranges that are just as good as machines that have a specific orange color, and reds that are as good as a machine that has specifically orange or red and orange colors. So CMYK is a little bit limiting, but it's possible. I think the biggest frustration for you guys, former screen printers, is that with screen printing, Wilflex, Monarch, whatever, you were given a recipe from your manufacturer and said, this is how you make Pantone 200C. This is how you make Pantone 1743C, whatever. And also coded, uncoated. That's important too. Again, I'm going to go into a pretty big video on this Pantone topic. That's why I bought the color books, so that I could go into this topic. So there is, because we're doing digital to physical, that conversion causes problems. Whereas with screen print, you're going physical to physical. You're going physical ink to final product. So the fact that we're going digital to physical is the tough translation. And there's multiple points at which it can translate differently. That's why RGB and CMYK values just don't work. So, because there are multiple points where it can change slightly. So I'm working on a more encompassing, like full, like understanding of that and kind of how to mitigate some of those things. The best way you can mitigate color issues is just by having your machine a profile built specifically for your machine. So Jordan, if you've not had your machine profiled, if you're just using the default profiles from Digital Factory or from the place that sold it to you, it might be in the ballpark, but it's not going to be super accurate. You have to have a bespoke profile built for your machine, and linearization, like the whole package, needs to be built for your machine to have it be accurate at all. So the new features on Digital Factory 12, and I have it, I've opened it up. The biggest difference is their profiling. Their profiling uses the Fiery Profiler, which again, I have not used that piece of it yet. And they've changed the overall way their profiling is done. And they actually are using some functions that I made my own like way of testing it. If you've seen my video on dot size and graininess, or like how to get rid of some of the graininess in Digital Factory, they are using some of those processes now built into it. I still think mine's a little more efficient the way that I do it, but they're building that in. The only other feature they've really talked about at all is like a different rendering intent in saturation. Like they're supposed to be better for like vibrancy and stuff like that, but it's going to throw off your accuracy a bit. The only other thing is their gang sheet builder, which if you watch, I did a live stream just when I first got Digital Factory 12. The gang sheet builder, I didn't really like it because you can already kind of build a gang sheet in Digital Factory 12 as a whole. So there weren't a lot of big differences, at least nothing that like blew my mind. Again, I have yet to build a profile with Fiery yet. I expect it to be better, but I haven't seen it, or I haven't played with it much yet. Dino, I love this conversation. Dino says sRGB shouldn't be device dependent. It's a standard. The devices might not be correctly calibrated, but sRGB is standardized. CMYK is the one that's dependent on too many things. I disagree. sRGB, yes, is a standard color space, but the way that it's choosing to render it out, also sRGB is very limiting. My printer can do way more color than sRGB. So yes, those color spaces can be standardized. And you're right. Usually they're using sRGB as the values in the in Pantone. Their values are sRGB, RGB values. But the conversion can change it. The input profiles can change it. Also, sRGB is not capable of reproducing some of the colors that the CMYK can actually do. If you look at the gamuts next to each other, there are colors that sRGB can make that CMYK can't, and there's colors that CMYK can make that sRGB can't. So there's a lot of layers of things. And so if you standardized all of your conversions, all those protocols, you could say it's standardized. But anybody who talks color, who understands color, will always refer to RGB as being device dependent, because it is, and CMYK being device dependent, because it is. And when I say device, I don't just mean printer device. I mean camera, capture device, scanners are capture devices, monitors reproduce, the way the computer processes it. There's just so many areas that can cause problems. And I've never seen anybody match Pantones using RGB values accurately, even with properly calibrated machines, because there's too many other opportunities for it to change and shift, if that makes sense. My wife says my setup is obnoxious. My son says it's glorious. I'm going to side with my son on this. All right, man, you guys are asking some deep questions, which are great. But it means I'm catching up to your questions that you probably posted 5-10 minutes ago. Carl says they have the Chrome on sale right now too. Yep, I'm looking at it, but just ordered some Japanese ink to try. So, Carl, let me know what Japanese ink privately. I don't disparage anything out there, but I will tell you guys when I think something's amazing for sure. If you have an expanded gamut printer, should you work in RGB color mode in Adobe, then rely on the software to get? Yeah, you should always, even if you don't have expanded color gamut, you should always work in RGB. And this is a big argument and sticking point for a lot of design, especially screen printers. We should be in RGB, guys. DTF should be in RGB. And I will tell you, I don't know, I don't have the file here. I don't even think, do I have the file on my laptop? Can't remember. There was a shop that I was in that used lab values in Illustrator for their Pantone colors. So they put in the lab value from Pantone into it, and then they had it as a CMYK file. They printed it as a PDF CMYK file, and all the results were dull, very dull. And then basically I just converted it in Illustrator to RGB, which again, it was still bringing in the lab value, but doing that conversion from lab to RGB. And when I printed that PDF, it was so much more vibrant, so much better. And I think my gut says, and they were using Digital Factory, my gut says that just the way that it's converting and doing the rendering intents. So if you're not familiar, the rendering intent is how does it convert from the current color space to lab color space? Because technically the printer or the RIP software, its profiling is lab color space based. So like when I scan my scan charts, really the software is creating a lab value, what the scanner saw, the spectro data in lab form, it scans it, it looks at that, and then it says, okay, what was that square output on the printer? So that square was maybe 25 cyan, 26 yellow, 30 magenta, and 20 black. It basically makes a table of that lab value to that scanned value. And then it creates a table of all of those lab values. Then what it does is it creates basically a digital breakdown of all the lab values against what it believes the printer is capable of based on those squares it scanned. That's how it builds that ICC profile. Then on your input side, when you bring that file in with Adobe RGB or sRGB or whatever, CMYK, and what it's going to do is it converts those RGB or CMYK values to lab and then matches those two things up. So if you're rendering intent, and many of the softwares like Digital Factory, Neostampa, they will let you choose that rendering intent, but they will also allow you to have different sub adjustments and settings you do to that rendering intent. So the rendering intent can change the way those colors convert. And this is something I've been meaning to try, to build something in lab color space and just see what it does when it prints it out, if it's more or less accurate. But again, it's going to look different on my computer monitor. So I'm still playing with some stuff on that. Carl, honestly, you, my friend, are a little Jeremy disciple at this point. And I'm always working in RGB. So the input on your RIP software, when you check the rendering intent, you should have it set to Adobe RGB 1998. That's, you set those input or the input profiles. So some RIPs will just take whatever the profile is that's on the file that comes in. I'm personally a fan of telling it to just say, the heck with the embedded profile, give me Adobe RGB, because most people, when they're sending you a PNG that is ripped, or PNGs are embedded with sRGB information, they're native web graphics, so they're going to be embedded with sRGB. And what most people are wanting to do, not color matching, what most people are doing is just printing a gang sheet. And they just want the best, brightest, vibrant colors. Adobe RGB 98 is going to give you that. So, Yes, most of the rips will have some function like this. Like in Digital Factory, I can scan something and have it output what it thinks it scanned. I've done it before. I actually did it on a live stream with like a Home Depot bag, which is orange. It's pretty funny. But yeah, there is a way to do that. I'll put that on my list. Scan and verify video. I just put it on my list. So Sean, I'm guessing you come from a screen printing background. Am I accurate in that assessment? I think you might be coming from a screen printing background. Most people that want to do CMYK are coming from a screen printing background. I don't think Pantone is pointless because there are a lot of brands that still use Pantone. So you need to be able to match. If you are going to print for a brand, you need to be able to match accurately a Pantone color. Now, I think if they are not a brand and they ask for a Pantone color, they don't know what they're talking about. And that's totally like legit. Like people are like, I want Coca-Cola Red. FYI, don't Google Coca-Cola Red. It's wrong. I think it says like Pantone 430 something. You know what? Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's see. Let's pop over here to the internet and let's Google Pantone Coca-Cola Pantone. It thinks, well, this is the one of the first searches. Let's see. What is a Pantone color for Coca-Cola? There is no Pantone color for Coke Red. What is this? I hold on. Let me hide this real quick, guys. Let me hide the comment. Okay, so check this out. Gotta love the internet. There is no Pantone for Coca-Cola Red. I'm pretty sure there is. What is Coca-Cola? It's a dark brown. That's not helpful. This is delightful. This is so helpful, guys. So this is why I say if you Google Coca-Cola Red, is Pantone going to give it to me? So it says 485C, which might be accurate, but if you look up here, like one of the first results says it's Pantone 484C. So let's go. Okay, so at the back it tells you. Let's see. Go back over here. So in the back, it's got a list of all the Pantones. So Pantone 484C. 484C is page 48, row 6. So down at the bottom, you got page numbers here. Did I say page 48? Is that what I said? 485 or 484C. Yeah, page 48. Page 48, row 6. So this little thing, this little Google search says it's 484C. When I look at 484C, look how brown that is. That's nasty. Come on. Capture it. Capture it. Don't focus on my face. There we go. There, 484C. 485C, that looks a little more accurate. But you can't always trust that somebody knows what that color is. So somebody comes to you and says, I want Coca-Cola Red. They don't actually know what that Coca-Cola Red is. They just have a general idea of what it looks like on like their Coke can, which is accurate. But yeah, there's Pantones do serve a purpose, and they are necessary if you guys are going to be printing for a brand. There's a shop in Florida that I work with that they are under contract with FIFA. So they have to have their Coca-Cola Red dialed in. They have to have their Home Depot Orange dialed in. They have to have all these global brands dialed in. And so oftentimes, especially like collegiate stuff, if you guys are going to do any collegiate things, those are brand colors. So you have to be able to hit that color. So you have to do 200C if you're going to do Ohio State. You've got to get their grays dialed in. when we're talking about the general public, like gang sheets and stuff like that, when you're selling gang sheets on your website, color is not as big of a concern of accuracy as it is vibrancy and accuracy within the print itself. So if somebody has a graphic and it's got a bunch of very neutral grays and your printer prints a pinkish gray, they're going to be pissed. So ultimately, it's actually really funny because the whole G7 thing is about neutral grays. And honestly, from a like gang sheet standpoint, if I can get you neutral grays, you're going to win over most everybody else. However, down in the neutral gray does not always get you the biggest, widest, craziest gamut, which is more of actually what people want if they are just buying like a gang sheet or whatever. So you're right. The average person, Carl, ordering transfers is not worried about Pantone. Correct. But there's a small percentage of your business that's gonna be picky about that. Oh, interesting. I just assumed you had a background in DTF or in screen printing. Well, the issue was that early on, China Tex had you convert to CMYK, saving a TIFF, then importing to Maintop. I think we're mixed. Yeah. So Maintop is not good. Plain and simple. If you're using Maintop, quit. Because you have to build a white underbase. Every gang sheet you bring in has to be like managed. Whereas with Digital Factory, Neo Stampa, any of the modern rips are going to build your white underbase for you. So yeah, no, it's totally logical to think that I'm printing with a CMYK printer, I should be using CMYK. It's totally a valid assumption to make. So hear me say that. Valid assumption that because we're printing with CMYK, we should use CMYK. The problem comes in to like what you're looking at on screen. And the CMYK adjustment that your printer makes that your screen makes, that Photoshop makes, it's choosing a rendering intent to go from RGB to CMYK. And that rendering intent may not be the same that your printer is going to do. And that CMYK profile that it's using on your computer is not the same one that your printer is going to use. Whole bunch of ways and areas for it to get screwed up. So that's why I've been a big fan of the RGB the whole way. That's not true, Dino. There are a lot of Pantone matches that we can match perfectly with DTF. Like perfectly. Again, I'm going to delve into this a little bit more. I've got some tests I want to run. I'm going to try a default profile, and then I'm going to try a profile that I'm specifically designing to match Pantones. So I've got some ideas about this, but that's not true. You can 100% match many Pantones with DTF. And even when I first started testing the hi-fi color using fluorescence, I took, and there are some really, I want to say they're in here. Yeah. So I took some very vibrant colors, and I don't remember where they were at. I'll have to find them another time. But I basically took the Pantone book and took the scanned values out of here. I used my Spectro to scan the value out of here, and it printed it out exactly the same. I actually just did it the other day, and we were less than 1 delta E off. And that's imperceptible. So you can 100% match some. Is this an always most of the time? You can match certain Pantones. What those Pantones are, that's the hard thing. I see some people like, I can match 95% of Pantone colors. I'm like, okay, where are you getting that number? And so there are people in this industry that do tout that their machine can match up to 95% of Pantone colors, but you don't know which ones, and they don't have a way to articulate which ones they can. Now, there are some softwares that I have seen, and I have not had an opportunity to really test yet, that do say that they can digitally match Pantone. So that's another thing I'm going to play with is, can I get a Pantone match using that additional software? So again, my goal in all of this is to try to standardize DTF as much as I can, so that I could maybe give you a recipe like Wilflex, like Monarch. Like maybe I can give you a recipe for producing a Pantone, or at least how to get yourself into the ballpark where you can use that recipe. Because a recipe is great if we know what measuring devices we're using. A recipe doesn't do you any good if I don't tell you if it's tablespoons or teaspoons or cups. Like a quarter teaspoon is very different than a quarter of a cup, right? So we're going to get to the bottom of this eventually. But this has been a great conversation on all this stuff. Matuba, what's happening? It's late. It's fine. It's great. Some can match, but not all. Yeah. 100% of the time, it matches 90% of them. Can I talk about the difference between selecting ISO coded and CADLink CMYK wide? Yes. Give me a second. I think because it's a digital process, there are so many places for things to get screwed up. We have to standardize the process, like the actual handling of graphics. Like we have to standardize that before we even get to the printer, which that needs to be standardized. So Dino, we need to have some conversations, because I know you've had problems with getting Delta E matches, and I think it's because of the way that Neostampa tells you to build profiles. They come from a digital textile background where they're matching 4 or 5 colors. That's it. And then getting those printed out. So I think they have a different mindset. And I think all of the rips, the profiling, ICC profiling is not necessarily to get accurate Pantone matches. That's not the purpose of an ICC. The purpose of an ICC is to get colors that accurately relate to each other. Does that make sense? So getting them to accurately relate to each other is not necessarily an accuracy against a Pantone book. So hear me out. An ICC, a really good ICC, has perfectly neutral grays, and every other color that it's capable of producing relates to each other in an accurate way. It's really, really tough. And Dino, I think you've got screen printing background, so you kind of come from a couple different angles. And I think that's one of the things that benefits me in this industry, is that I don't have a screen print background. I understand how that world works, but my brain was never in that world. My brain has always been in the digital world. So I think that's what helps me a little bit on just saying no to certain things and saying it should be different. But me too, Carl. Me too. Okay, so let's get into this this question Sean had about ISO coded versus CADLink wide CMYK. So this is going to actually, before I get into that, because we will probably lose some people because we're going to get nitty gritty dirty on this, I have to. Whoo, Dino. I've been down this path. It's not for the faint. It's that's something. DTF Station. I have to thank them because they chose to sponsor this channel and my live streams when I had 10 subscribers. 10 subscribers. I'm currently at 2,840 or something like that, 2,840. But they chose to sponsor this channel. Without their partnership, I don't know that I would have gotten this thing completely off the ground. So so they are a huge help. I love their equipment. I love their attitude as a company. And you will see it when I release the video. Their new Color Prime Chroma ink is ridiculous. It is such a good ink. It's not cheap, 75 bucks a bottle. I think their white's like $100. So it's not cheap. No. And you can get cheap ink, but you will see in this video that there are colors that I can produce with this CMYK setup that is impossible with really a lot of other inks that are out there. And I actually will compare all of the inks. I don't name them. I don't name names because I'm not going to do that. But I always got to shout out DTF Station. If you are interested in getting some equipment, or you want to try their ink or their film or their powder, they got the whole shebang right there. Reach out to one of their dealers. Now, I have to say this because it is a common misconception. DTF Station is not white labeling. They are not taking a product that's made in China and just putting their name on it. They are the manufacturer. They control the manufacturing facility. So when I reach out to the owner and say, hey, can you fix this? Or can you adjust this? Or why are you doing it this way? They actually have a reason, and they are controlling the production process, which is why their machines generally perform so much better from a durability, longevity standpoint. Is because they're putting the little bit better part in. They're putting the better motor in. They're putting in the better sensor. So DTF Station is not a white labeling dealer. They are the manufacturer. They are the manufacturer of the film. They have, I've seen the equipment that they're making the film with. They work with a manufacturer in Korea for their ink, but they are the ones choosing the formulation. DTF Station, Color Prime, is going out and sourcing the pigments. Their new Chroma ink, they spent 2 years developing. So they are not just white labeling and reselling. They are the manufacturer. That's why I was happy to work with them, is because they are in control of what they're selling and shipping, which no other dealers can really say that. At the end of the day, the manufacturer might just choose to change something, and you're kind of just stuck. I saw it when I was at DTF Superstore. Things would change, and we had no control over it, and it was so frustrating. So thank you, DTF Station, for partnering with this channel, for supporting this channel this year. They were the first sponsor, and they went out on a limb. 10 subs, I think, is what I had when they decided to sponsor the channel. So, yeah, they have a video on their ink and film, I think both, if you go to DTF Station's YouTube channel. All right, so let's answer Sean's question. Let's get into some nitty gritty. So I need to convert a couple things here to make this work nicely. I swap out my monitor down here to just mirror my laptop. And I also have a separate mouse and keyboard for my laptop. So let's go PC. All right. So Sean is asking difference between selecting ISO coded and CMYK wide. So what he's talking about is in Digital Factory, when you choose a different, let's just grab this guy. When you go to this setting here for ICC profile, you have the option of doing ISO coded or CMYK wide. If you guys see here, there's a bunch of like preset defaults. I don't want to use the preset defaults. I want to use their like I want to do my choice on that. But you're asking what the difference is. So let's look at it. Let's go to Copra. And oh, look, Jeremy just recorded a bunch of stuff. Let's move. Let's go search for ISO coded. See if I can find these profiles. Oh, let's go back in here and see if I can find them. Let's go select from printer profiles. Okay, they're right there. Cool. So let's copy or rip system C links. Okay. So let's go C drive, Digital Factory 11, RIP, system, C-Link. Okay, and we've got CMYK wide, right? Like CAD links, CMYK wide. Yep, wide CMYK. Let's pull that in here. And let's pull ISO coded. And let's take a look. So this is the ISO coded gamut. Let's just take a quick gander at it. So that actually looks fairly similar to a lot of printer gamuts, though way bigger over here. And then CMYK wide. So bigger. Now let's compare it to like Adobe 98. Huge, massive, like that. Sorry, you're not getting any of those blues down there with it. But let's compare. Let's do the ISO coded, and I'm going to set it as my comparison profile. So what that does is when I select something else, this will be a grayed out version of it. So if I look at like the Color Prime Chroma, so what you're looking at here, and it's kind of hard to tell a little bit, but if it's gray, that means it's the other profile, the comparison one. So the ISO coded being bigger than the one I've selected here. Let me see if I can. This view is a little bit hard to see what's going on, but basically all these colors, these brighter colors, I'm producing with my printer that ISO coded doesn't have in its library, in its gamut. If I do CMYK wide as the test, as the comparison, and I go to the chroma, so there are colors here with the CMYK over here, that are not possible with my chroma ink, but also a lot of colors that are possible with my chroma that are not possible with the wide CMYK. So of those two options, the wide CMYK would be the one that's going to utilize more of your printer's colors, but you still got some of these bright colors that it's not going to utilize. Because basically what it does when we convert from one color space to another is if there's a color outside, so in the case of, let me go to one that's smaller real quick. So let's go to the ISO coded. So in the case of, sorry, let me do this. Make that the comparison profile and ISO coded. Okay. So in this case, the gray is the Color Prime Chroma and the colored one is the ISO coded. So let's say your input profile gives you a color right on the edge of this ISO coded, but you were trying to print a brighter version of that color, it would never go brighter because the edge of that color capability in the input profile, so in this ISO coded, if you had a CMYK file that had this color pink that's right in there, but right at the edge of it, the printer would see that as being within the printer's gamut, so it's not going to do anything with it. But if I were to use CMYK wide, again, it's still not going to do it. Basically, what it does is any colors that are in gamut, it leaves them alone. It leaves them in that spot. But if it's a color that's outside of the gamut, it would move it to fit inside the gamut. So that's why I recommend using an input profile that is bigger than the printer's capability so that it can squeeze all of the colors into that gamut, but utilizing the brightest, most vibrant, most saturated versions of that color. I hope that makes sense. So differences between CMYK wide and ISO, pretty big. Obviously, I've never been a fan of ISO coded because look how much bigger my printer's gamut is than that ISO coded. And the dark stuff is compensated for in some other ways, so I wouldn't stress about that. But for bright vibrancy and saturation, my printer can do better than the ISO coated. So not a big fan of using ISO coated for that one reason. Look at these bright colors. All these bright colors. So I hope that makes sense. And the reason I use the Kodak Grackle 2013 is because, actually, let's see. Don't know if I've compared this in a while. But again, I don't use CMYK. So I literally don't ever use this. This is actually not ever being used because I don't use CMYK input files. The only time I ever use a CMYK file is in my dot graininess test. That is a CMYK PDF because I'm turning off all of the ICCs and just outputting specific values out of the printer. So that's a thing. If you want to print like totally ignoring ICCs altogether, you just turn them off and you print a PDF that's CMYK and it will just give you that straight output from your printer. The problem is if your printer's not linearized right, it's going to screw it all up. But guys, you're like, today, let's end the year with like the deepest questions ever. Like, I don't know that you guys have quite asked questions this in depth before. My voice is tired a little bit right now, and we're an hour and a half in. And you see why like this gets so convoluted and crazy, because there's so many opportunities and possibilities to change. Actually, Carl, it's not a record because I streamed for 2.5 hours a couple Saturdays ago. But I was building profiles. Different. I know it's different. Off topic. So the V3 is better than the V2. The V2 tends to leave, like, your rollers can sometimes leave some pinch marks on it a little bit, depending on the printer, which I've seen on like a lot of other films out there. The V3 is the stuff that they are fully controlling. So the V3 is better. It's got a little bit better ink absorbing layer. I feel like it lays down the ink a little bit nicer, like behavior wise. It's not bad. What's in here right now is V2 because I had V2. And that's actually profiled on. I don't have any V3 right now in shop. I'm supposed to be getting some soon. But the V3 is the better option, and that is the one that they're controlling. Because prior to that, I think their V2, they were still buying it from a manufacturer, and I think they kept messing around with them on formulas and how they were doing it. So they're like, let's make our own. So I'm pretty sure the V3 is Color Prime / DTF Stations proprietary stuff. So my problem with courses, Greg, takes forever to make them. To make them truly in-depth and worthy of like a paid course, it takes a lot of work. Like, I'm still working on my Neo Stampa course, which I should have had for a while. Driving me nuts. So yes, I'm trying to make some more courses. The problem is I'm never home. Like, this is the longest stretch I've been home in quite a while. But I'm glad you haven't seen any pinch roller marks, Jonathan. That's great. Mine is really bad right now. I do need more hours in the day because I also like to do fun things like mountain bike. And my son's home, so he's busted out I have a Logitech like steering wheel and pedals set up for like doing race car games, and it only comes out when he's home for like breaks because he doesn't have anything to do. Dude, I love driving that little sim rig. I am a master at Sao Paulo, the Brazil track for F1 game. Is great. Is great. Okay. Any other questions? Comments, concerns, well wishes? New Year's coming up. So I tend to be of two camps when it comes to the new year. It is just another day, honestly. Like, today is a day, and tomorrow's a day, and January 1st is just another day. But there is something in our psyche as people, as humans, of the ability to reset. And I encourage you guys, maybe don't do the New Year's resolutions thing. That doesn't always work out well for a lot of folks, but maybe it's a good opportunity. And this is why, like, as people, we need things to ground us to certain moments, certain times. Without something to ground us, we just get lost because it's a day, another day, another day. It's one of the reasons I try to do my live streams on the same day, is because it gives us some kind of grounding point. Gives me a grounding point. Maybe it doesn't give you, but whatever. I like to do that. For me, it's also church. I go to church on Sundays. And the weeks that I don't go to church on Sundays, like there's a couple jobs I've been out on Saturday. And so I'm flying home on Sunday. And boy, it just throws everything off for me. Luckily, I have the live streams that are every single Monday. But I think as people, we need things to ground us to a certain moment in time. And so I think the New Year's resolutions, or the fact that we're switching over to a new year, gives you an opportunity to say, hey, is there something about my life, my lifestyle, my business, any of these things? I don't think they're BS, Greg. I don't think resolutions are BS. But the idea of a New Year's resolution is not necessarily helpful. But what is helpful is to like write down, to speak out, to kind of assess what you want your life, your health, your business to look like. If you don't have something to reach for, to go toward, you will inevitably just sit there and do nothing. And if you don't want to change, like I know that there's somebody that was on the channel earlier today. She's got a business that's great. It's a good business. It's doing well. She doesn't want to blow up. She doesn't want to have 14 printers. She wants her 1 or 2 printers and an embroidery machine to make stuff so she can have some play money, some money to go on vacation trips and stuff like that, to buy some nice things, and to pick up her kids from school. That cannot be discounted. It's not about that you want to get better or bigger, but maybe better, maybe be more efficient. Like, obviously, what I put out for myself in January of last year is nothing what the year showed up, because January last year I was working at DTF Superstore and we were trying to recover from the problems we were having and stuff like that. And there was we had some things we wanted to achieve. And then everything blew up. And so you got to pivot. You got to pivot. But it's inevitable. I have an innate desire to want to grow and to learn more, gain more knowledge, be smarter, not because I want to keep it all. As you guys know from watching this YouTube channel, I like to share everything I learn. But I saw my grandfather learned till the day that he died. He was learning. And there is so much in this world, whether you're a person of faith or not, there is so much in this world that many of us don't know or don't understand, that you could never run out of new things to learn. And I think that's part of what keeps me relatively young, is this desire to learn more, and I learn new things, and that does keep your brain kind of young. So I'm going to encourage you guys, don't do resolutions. Don't do resolutions, but set yourself out some goals. What would it mean for your business, for your life, if you made a couple changes? Like, maybe it's not growing your business bigger, but maybe it's finding a way to make your business more efficient or your time management more efficient. Maybe you're really tired and run down at the end of the day. Maybe you could lose some lbs. I'm talking to myself. You could lose some lbs, but maybe there's something else going on. Maybe it's because you're drinking way too much Diet Dr. Pepper. And that's what's running your body down. Maybe you want to spend more time with your kids. So you maybe need to make some adjustments on your business to make sure you can prioritize that time with your kids while still being able to provide for them. Because it's a balancing act. Like, it is a super big balancing act trying to manage a business to provide, or a job that you have. But most of you guys are watching this are business owners. Managing that business while spending time with your kids, because you got to provide for your family, but you also want to be there for your family. So I'd encourage you guys to look at those and assess those things that, like, if you could change this thing or make an adjustment, like let's say you wanted to spend that more time with your kids, maybe you want to help coach their football team this fall. What do you need to do in your business to make that a reality? So do those things, not because you got to hit the numbers, not because you got to do, but because of what it's going to do kind of for you. I agree, Matuba. Quarter goals are great. Having goals that have, like, numbers are good because you can, like, quantify that progress. But ultimately, if your goal does not have some emotion attached to it, a reason to have that, you will not hit it. So just saying, hey, I want my business to do $1 million this year. Great. Okay. Why? Why do you want your business to do $1 million this year? Is it so you can provide for your family? Is it so that you can take your family on a vacation? Is it so you can pay for your kids' college or something like that? Like, if you don't have a why, you're going to struggle to get there. And also, it's going to help you assess how to get to that goal. Because if you just say, I want to make $1 million, but it's because you want to get there so you can do some things for your family or your kids. But if the steps you're taking to get there are at the expense of your family, either adjust the goal or find a different way to get there. So I'm going to encourage you guys, take it. Take the opportunity. Everybody expects you to be shut down anyway. Some of you are still going to work. I'm probably still going to work. But take an opportunity to just kind of assess where you would like to see your business, your family, yourself in 6 months, by the end of next year, and see what happens. And then when it all blows up because something unexpected happens, you pivot. That's what I did. Everything that I thought was going to be 2025 blew up in March. Completely blew up. I was not expecting to be going on my own. But oh my gosh, am I ever so happy that I went on my own. This has been a stellar year. Nothing I expected of it, but I took it and I ran with it, and I had some plans, and then they changed, and I pivot, and they pivot, and I pivot. So those goals, Vicky, you're my girl. It's going to be a good year. I'm excited for it. I got some things I'm working on that could be crazy good, but I'm going to wrap it up there. You all, I hope you had a good 2025. If you didn't, guess what? Tomorrow's a new day. You don't have to wait till January 1st to say it's a new day. You can say it's a new day tomorrow and just reset. Like, we can reset. We have the ability as people to reset. So do that. There are very few things that you can't adjust and come back from. Very few things. So hope you have a wonderful, safe New Year's. Please stay safe out there. If you're going to play with fireworks, please be careful. I'd like you to have all 10 digits when you're on the live stream next Monday. And that's going to do it. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your support. Thank you, Jonathan, the first guy who ever commented on one of my videos or on my live stream. So many of you guys are in here every single week. Carl is in here like every single week. Dino's in here oftentimes. I got to be careful not to start naming people because then I'll forget people and I'll feel bad that I forgot people. And it's good. It's a whole thing. But just know that I appreciate you guys all so much. And I will see you next Monday. I'll see you next year, guys. That's like the best dad joke, right? Right? So I'll see you guys Monday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Check out the YouTube channel. I do have the Chroma Ink video coming out later today or tomorrow. It's some pretty special stuff. So check it out. See what you think. And y'all have a great great week, and I'll see you next year.